connect with somebody that has been through some stuff that you've been through and that has got over it. Maybe it's an older person, maybe somebody your same age, to kind of get some light on things, right?
There is something special inside you.
Welcome to GNG Podcast with your host, speaker, best-selling author, Chaz Jackson.
Yo, what's going on, kings and queens? It's your boy Chaz Jackson coming back to you once again, representing GNG, gift and a gift. You know our motto is, we're all gifted differently to make a difference. I have a difference maker in front of me right now, ready to shine his light on GNG Podcast. Are you ready to get it, King Karriem?
I am ready, Chaz, and thank you for inviting me on your podcast. And thank you for this time that we're going to spend together today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The audience, they're super excited to learn more about you, the encourager, how you are thriving and fueling others in 2022.
Sure. Yeah. So my name is Karriem Kanston, the encourager, here to motivate you and inspire you in your life, your career, and your business, also known as the encourager on many different platforms and things like that. So, Let me tell you why I started using the word encourager. I have a good friend. My name is Tawana Williams. She was born with no arms, and she calls herself the Hope Coach, right? And so, I'm like, Tawana, how can I use an acronym so people know who I am? Because you're known as a Hope Coach, right? And so she's like, man, come up with something. And I'm like, well, I know that God has told me that you got to encourage people on a daily basis. And if you're not doing that, you're not doing your purpose, Karriem. So that's why I use the word encourager. And so what I tell people is that everyone needs encouragement. And I don't care who you are, or what you're doing. There's some time during the day or during your life or ups and downs that you need encouragement. And so just because I call myself the encourager, I also need encouragement myself. And so just love to encourage people and let people know that, listen, you know what? Somebody needs to hear today, everything's going to be all right.
Dude, thank you so much for diving deep into that. Again, you say gold right there. We all need encouragement as well. And I love to think, we should be the fuel so that we can fuel others, and vice versa. It's so much better for us to receive more empowerment and just have hope to keep striving forward when we know that we're blessing other people. So really good stuff there. And I know the theme of our show today is encouraging from the middle. When you hear that, Karriem, what comes to mind?
When you talked about that title, what came to my mind is I'm gonna share a story, right? Because encourager from the middle is who I am, right? I don't like to be in front, right? As a leader, the number one person. Right. But I like to be the second person. Right. And so usually the second person in leadership is they have to deal with the top leader. Then they have to deal with the followers or the leaders that are below them. So you're right in between. Right. And many a times people say that is the hardest position. Right. There's a book titled Being Number One at Being Number Two. And it's a small read book, but it talks about how that is harder to be the number two person in leadership than it is being number one, because you have two different things that you got to work with. And so people have to understand that when you are in between, where you're in the middle, you have to do two things, right? You have to look up and look down, but then you have to look at yourself, right? And so it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, right? So on top of, hey, I'm a Black man, right? And so I have a family. I have a multicultural family. We have adopted two daughters, 6 and 4. One is mixed with Native American and white and Black, and then the other daughter, she is mixed, but she's truly white by what we call in the United States. But even though people that's white and Black and not Black, they're probably brown and really tan, So so using those colors is messed up. But people look for you to do things, right? And so your kids are looking up to you because they need you for help, right? Yes, your spouse, your partner, or people are looking to you because they see strength. But then when you get weak, what are you showing? You're being vulnerable, right? And so people don't want to be in a vulnerable place because they think it's showing weakness. But guess what? The strong people are weak in some areas. It might not, they don't want to show everybody that weakness.
I know this show was built around providing tips and techniques for young men as they strive to grow in personal development. And I quote you, man, you said you can encourage during the discouragement. What does that mean for you in a sense of providing inspiration for that young man? You can encourage during discourage.
Thank you. And young men that's listening, I used to be a young man. I guess by today's definition of 40, 46, I guess I'm still a young man, depending on how you look at it. Think about this. At the age of 18, I had to make a critical decision, right? I was born to two parents that had mental illness. We moved 14 plus different times all over New York and other places. And I had to say to myself, you know what? I could be bitter. I was bitter and hateful at that time. But I had to make a decision at some point in my life that I need to make a different turn, right? And so, yes, we might be bitter. We might be upset about who we were born to or what neighborhood that we live in or the things that we haven't achieved yet. At some point in time, you're gonna grow up from a child to be a grown man. And it might be an incident. It might be a couple of incidents that propel you, but sometimes in your lowest place, that's when it's going to make you do a high turnaround. And so there was one point, I go to college, right? My parents said they're going to help me out, and I get a call the day before saying, "Hey, we're not going to help you pay for college." And so I had to make a decision: do I stay or do I go? My brother calls me up, man, you need to come home. You don't have no money. I had to make a decision. I say, I'm staying. I'm gonna figure it out, right? And so as young people, there's a time in young men where you're gonna have to become a man. Sometimes that's kind of faster than what you want it to be, and then sometimes you have a slower trajectory. So you might be saying to yourself right now, nobody understands me. Nobody knows what I'm going through. People are going through the same thing you're going through, or people have been through the same thing that you're going through. So I usually tell people, maybe connect with somebody that has been through some stuff that you've been through and that has got over it. Maybe it's an older person, maybe somebody your same age, to kind of get some light on things, right? One of the things, because I'm truly an introvert, which people laugh at me all the time, and they say, how can you be an introvert? Well, most of the time I like to be alone. When I go home, I like to just chill. I need other people's help, but I struggle with reaching out. And especially men and young men, we struggle with reaching out and say, you know what? I need some help.
Wow, that's so true.
What happens is that people see the mess because we didn't reach out to help. Why did this young man come in the classroom and scream at me? Why does young man doesn't listen to me? Because there's so much inside of us that when it comes out the wrong way. But a lot of people don't know how to handle that. Like, I know how to handle it now because I was one of those young men that I waited to the end. And then when the stuff came out of me, it was in the wrong way. So the reason why so many people or schools are they don't know how to deal with a young man, and they burst out because guess what? They just came from a weekend of hell in their home, and the only place they get attention is school.
Wow.
Right. And so if you don't understand that, and then now they come to school, they're bursting out because now somebody's paying attention. But guess what? They're not doing that because of you. They're doing that because of what environment just left. So how do we help them throughout the week to say, I understand, man, you got a broken home, or the weekends are really tough, right? And so how do we give them more help or resource, or just listen to them? Tell me what's going on with you. And sometimes young men, that means that we gotta talk and share some information that we think is something we shouldn't share, even though your parent told you, don't tell my business. Right. That's usually what happens.
That was said to me so much going on.
Right. Don't be going out on the street telling my business. But listen, If I would have told people that I had two parents struggle with mental illness, probably I would have got more resources to help me get through. Now I got resources. Now I understand. But you know what? We're doing a disservice as adults to kids when we tell them to shut up and just listen to what I say.
Yeah, and I think that goes into your book, Growing Up Mental, and that was inspired through your parents and your upbringing. And it makes me think about, we can't control the cards that are dealt to us in life, but we can't control how we play our hand. And like you was able to bring all those circumstances, those situations, how you was growing up, like you encouraging that young man right now, and using that and extract the lessons from it to be able to strive and be a greater version of yourself. And I love for you to talk a little bit about your book a little bit more as well. But there was so much gold drop there. And I want to encourage whoever's listening, hey, ask questions, ask for help. And I know this king right here, he's a part of John Maxwell team. John Maxwell says it a lot in his writings of, the best ways to build relationships and to build trust is to ask questions, to ask for help. And that was gold, what you shared there. And just encouraging that teacher, parent, coach, whoever listening right now, where you're just sharing, those kids, they're coming in from different backgrounds, different stories, and them acting out is just smoke from a fire that's burning. That acting out is a smoke from a fire of a circumstance that potentially is going on at home that they don't have any control over, that's creating that unwanted behavior, that emotional baggage. So just encouraging, like you said, just to listen is to be a vital help for that young man and just to be that source of hope, because you might not can change that young man or even that young woman's living environment, but you can change their perspective of how they're looking at their life and ways of striving towards their dreams and goals despite whatever card's been dealt to them. So yeah, man, thank you so much for diving deeper on that whole subject of things. And again, I love for you to talk a little bit about your book, how the audience can get your book, and also go into your contact information. How can we get more in front of what you got going on here in 2022? And how can we be praying for you moving forward?
Thank you, Chaz. And before I talk about how to get in contact with me, let me all tell you a story. There's a story in the Bible about a young man named Joseph, right? And Joseph was given a gift to interpret dreams or see dreams differently than anybody else. But in his early young age, his brothers sold him into slavery, right? But fast forward to where he ended up, he became the second in charge of Egypt. And actually, his brothers needed him so they could survive, right? So he helped them out with the famine. But he said, "Lord, why did this happen to me?" And God said to him, "I had to send somebody before," right? He had to be sent to go through the mess, to go through the trial and tribulation, to be able to help out his family. Young men, young woman, young person, adult, whatever, sometimes you're going through is because that you got to go through to get somebody else through. And that's a tough one.
Whoa. You got to say that one more time. That was gold right there. Somebody didn't hear that again.
Sometimes your go through is that you have to go through to get somebody else through. It is not easy. I'm telling you, listen, I weep and cry every single week. I'm telling you, when I have to deal with issues around my mother's mental illness and my brother's mental illness. But if I didn't go through, if I didn't make the connections, if I didn't understand some of the stuff that I understand now, I wouldn't be able to get resources to my mother and brother dealing with their mental illness currently. Right. Wow. And so, yes, it's a burden. Yes, it's a sacrifice. But you know what? I had to go through to get through so I could help somebody else out. And that's the reason why I encourage people. But yeah, look me up. Look at my name, KANSTON.com. Google search me, Karriem Kanston. You can find my imprint. And yeah, keep me in prayer. This book, we're finalizing the release. It should be dropping this end of this month. But it's out on Amazon right now, but it's not the truly edited version, but it should be uploaded in the next week or two. But yeah, we're trying to inspire and motivate.
What's the name of that book again?
Growing Up Mental, a son story about growing up parents that struggle with mental illness. And so it's my view. It's not the view of my parents. But it also took a sacrifice to write it, because there's some people that probably don't want to talk to me after they read it, but it's going to help some folks out. It's going to be conversations. I want people to have conversations around issues.
Wow. And that's so true. And again, going back to men in general, some of the growth for me, whenever I was talking about that emotional baggage earlier, interrogating that emotional baggage, and that came from just having conversations with other men, and I was able to overcome so much of the bad behaviors that I was going through, and some of those bad emotions and acting out that I went through even personally in my life by just having those conversations. So whoever's listening right now, Growing Up Mental, that book will be dropping here soon. Send up those prayers of encouragement, of allowing other people to be reached to the masses about this read, and go check out this guy doing some phenomenal things, and continuing to pour into his community, his family, to everyone that comes across his path, because he's definitely an encouragement to me. And it's been such a treat having you on GNG podcast, Karriem Kingston.
Thank you.
And man, I'm going to go ahead and lead us out here. I told each and every one of you this is going to be a phenomenal episode. Go ahead, drop in the comments if you're looking on one of the social media platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or on one of the podcast platforms. Let us know what application point you're going to strive, take that daily challenge on implementing into your life right now. And if I had to just say one right off the bat from this episode that I'm going to take, is continue to ask questions. I feel like it was goal of what Karriem shared there, especially as a man, is asking questions, asking for help on all the things that God is leading you and the vision that he's showing you to strive for, to become a greater version of yourself. But I want you to stay up with GNG. More episodes coming soon. Hey, I want you to continue to do two things for me, family. Keep that crown on your heart. And please remember this: we are God's echo. I love each and every one of you. Peace.
Thank you for listening to GNG Podcast. Remember, you are gifted differently to make a difference. Please visit ChazJacksonSpeaks.org and let's continue to grow together. God bless.